Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Ryan Rizzuti takeovers for Benny TV. Multiple. This is like number 57. I don't remember. My father, Mr. Benny TV, cannot be here tonight for he had to go to a grocery store for a rare cereal box. I don't really. They only made 7. It has Flash Gordon on it with a tomahawk. It's a big thing. I don't know. I'm happy you guys can all be here tonight and watch me as you're here. Obviously, you're here in the studio. No, you're here in my heart. That's what I meant. Thank you for watching tonight. I have a couple of things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the entire Predator franchise, starting from the beginning of the first Predator film and the brand new The Predator. It's Predator 4, 6 if you count AVP films, but it's The Predator. It's the only one with a the. I'm going to talk about that tonight, and I'm also going to talk about a show I'm a really big fan of, American Vandal, which is on Netflix. The season 2 just came out on Friday. I'm going to talk about that. And I also want to talk about Dunkin' Donuts. See, the show started about 2 to 3 minutes late today because I had to get some delicious coffee. And I get the coffee. I guess they started hiring 10-year-olds at the local coffee shop. And I don't think they knew what coffee was because they kept looking at me weird when I ordered the coffee. And somebody in front of me ordered donuts, and they were like looking at the donuts like, I don't know what this is. Maybe they were aliens that turned into kids. I don't know. That's not what I'm here to talk about. But I ordered my coffee. I get an iced coffee, a little caramel swirl in there, and I get it. I'm waiting for it. I'm the only person standing at the area where you stand when the coffee's done. There was one person in front of me. They already got their coffee. I'm the only person there. The girl makes the coffee, then looks at me, bewildered and confused, and says, "Iced coffee with caramel? I'm the only one here. Yes, I'm the one who ordered the coffee that's standing in the designated coffee pickup area with the fancy froofy sign. I'm the only one here." It's pretty good. So the movies and the cinema and the television is what we're here to talk about today. Let's talk about The Predator. Big film came out this week was the new Predator film. Didn't do that well. Considered a box office disappointment because it made the same amount as the last Predator film, which came out 8 years ago, called Predators, which, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But we're going to talk about all the Predator films. I want to start with the first Predator film, and I'm going to work my way up to the new Predator film. So, today I watched Predator 1 and Predator 2. I watched Predator 1 recently over the summer. Love the first Predator movie. I decided to watch Predator 2 because I didn't really remember that much of it. I remembered a bit, but I wanted to watch both of them in a refresher for tonight's show. So I watched the first Predator film. Great film. First Predator film directed by John McTiernan, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as Carl Weathers, Jesse Body Ventura. Shane Black, the director of the new Predator film, is one of the commandos in the first Predator. He's the commando Hawkins. And it's a great movie. It's a really great movie. It has a lot of great things going for it. It's slightly dated because it is a science fiction horror film from the 80s. So there are some effects and such that obviously aren't going to translate that well over till today. And there's some plot elements that wouldn't translate that well. But overall, it's still an amazing movie. It's still one of the best horror films. It's not horror action films because it's not a straight up horror movie. I wouldn't say it's a straight up horror movie. It's more horror action. It has a lot of that crazy 80s-ness to it. It's a film that was built. One of the big things now is the Predator is built on the Predator, the monster itself. The first movie wasn't about that, though. The first movie was Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, doing a commando-like movie, him in the jungle, It was during the time that Vietnam War films were really huge. I believe it was 1987 when the first Predator film came out. And that film was built off an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. It is an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. I love that movie. It's an amazing film. It is still the best in the series. Spoilers for later when I talk about the new Predator film. And it's, if you were to watch it now, not having seen a Predator movie ever, I still think you would very much enjoy it. As, say, you lived in a capsule for the past 40 years and you never saw you only saw a couple Arnold movies and you're like, oh, there's a new Arnold movie, even though it's not new, just for sake of argument, and you were to watch it, you would still enjoy it just as much as you would have if you watched it when it first came out. Cold coffee. Predator 2, I don't know what they were thinking. So, the first Predator film is in the jungle. You have this alien creature that hunts people for sport. Yes, if you don't know what I apologize. If you don't know what the Predator is, it's a film series about an alien species that kind of looks like Whoopi Goldberg if Whoopi Goldberg was an alien. And they're aliens who hunt for sport. They hunt for sport. They will skin you alive. They'll rip out your spine. They have all sorts of gadgets. They have rocket shoulder rockets, camouflage, amazing camouflage. That was probably growing up. That was probably the first movie I saw, where you have people fighting something they can't see because it's an alien wearing camouflage that they did the cool effect where you can see it. Obviously, there is an outline, but you could see that it's camouflaged in like a chameleon. And that was something that, as a kid growing up, the first time I saw the Predator movie, I loved. And you go to the second Predator film, takes place, it came out 3 years later in 1990. Takes place in 1997, in a futuristic 1997 Los Angeles. Now, let's go, forget about the fact that doesn't make any sense. People love the first one because the Predator and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So you need to bring somebody with the gravitas of an Arnold Schwarzenegger for the second film. Somebody that's really going to pull you in. I'm sure your mind's racing with the people they could have chose. Chuck Norris, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Danny Glover is who they chose. Predator 2 starring Danny Glover and Gary Busey. And Bill Paxton for some reason, but he's not in it that much because he dies. Spoilers for Predator 2. Spoilers for Predator 2. Predator 2 is the weakest of the Predator films if you don't count the Alien vs. Predator movies because those are almost in a bubble. They're not quite Alien movies. They're not quite Predator movies. They're kind of in their own bubble up here where the crown is, like over right here. I embolize the crown. Yes, Brian, I'll talk about Arnold. I did talk about Arnold. Arnold Schwarzenegger, great actor, nice jawline. Everybody loves him. But Predator 2 is what I'm talking about now. And Predator 2 is a film that takes place in Los Angeles. It's supposed to be gang wars in this futuristic Los Angeles. And it's the Predator killing like Jamaican gangs and skinning them alive and killing them and doing all the things that you would expect out of a Predator movie. But it's bad. It's not good. There are people that like it a lot more than me. I kind of liked it growing up, not a lot. I don't know if I fully watched the entire movie from beginning to end growing up. Maybe I just saw scenes of it. I always had a fun joke about the Predator 2 with my friends, Predator 2 with my friends, that I always said it would have been funnier if it was a movie where it took place in Hollywood instead of the futuristic Los Angeles, and it was a Predator was going around in Hollywood, and Danny Glover was playing himself, and he was like, there's a Predator going, and nobody would believe him, except Gary Busey, of course, because he's Gary Busey, and it makes sense. It makes more sense than the actual movie that we got. If you want to watch Predator 2, it's on HBO Go, so is the first Predator, so go ahead and do it. I don't recommend it. There's some things about it that people like that they consider hallmarks of the franchise, some fun stuff. It is the first movie. Danny Glover ends up on the Predator ship, and on the Predator ship you see the alien skull, and that's the first time they ever connected the two worlds. So, I'm not hating on Busey. Gary Busey's a crazy person. It's a fact. It's not. That's a well-known. That's a documented fact. The documented fact that Gary Busey is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. There was a show on Comedy Central. I forget exactly what it's called. You can look it up. But it was like something with Gary Busey, and it was a documentary show where this guy was going to spend a certain amount of time with Gary Busey. And it didn't last long. It only lasted like a season. I forget what it's called, but if you look up reality show with Gary Busey, I'm sure it's going to come up. And all I remember is the first episode is Gary Busey was taking this kid to like a farm with cows, and he had corks. And Gary Busey was convinced that all the methane in the air was caused by the cows farting. So Gary Busey, and this is a real thing, apparently Gary Busey actually believed this, that if he put corks in all the cows' butts, it would stop all the methane pollution in the air. Of course, all the corks fell out instantly. And that show didn't get picked up for a second season. I'm the only one who remembers it. And maybe it's a fever dream I had. But it's real. You tell me, don't be hating on Gary Busey, Brian. Gary Busey's been hating on himself for a long time. That whole thing was more interesting than all Predator 2. So Predator 2. See, Brian, I lost viewers now, Brian. See what you did? Because you're making me talk about Gary Busey. Nobody wants to hear about Gary Busey. Predator 2 is the reason why we didn't have Predator films for over 10 years. For 15 years, roughly? Something like that. It's over 10 years. The next film we got was Alien vs. Predator, which was the big crossover between the Alien films and the Predator films. And it was a big deal because it's something everybody always wanted to see. They did comic books of it. They did comic books where Alien vs. Predator fight Batman and Superman. In the 90s, Predator became a very big pop culture phenomenon. In the same way that Scream did in Alien, and Michael Myers, and Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger. It's in that same realm, but it's the only one that I feel like, well, and Alien, it leans a little bit more action than horror, which is why they wanted to capitalize by doing Alien vs. Predator. The biggest mistake they made was having Paul W.S. Anderson direct that film. Paul W.S. Anderson, for those who don't know, directed the first Mortal Kombat film, which is great in its own ways, but it's kind of a piece of shit. He also directed the Resident Evil films, which are terrible, and is the reason why we have bad video game movies. And he also directed Alien vs. Predator, which is not, it's not terrible, but it's not a good movie. It was PG-13, so that took a lot out of it. There's elements of it that are good, that are interesting. I'm not going to stop you from watching it, but I also wouldn't recommend it. It has some interesting things. The acting's pretty terrible. The Predators are kind of cool. It's cool to see aliens fight Predators and stuff like that, if that's what you're into. I am a very big Predator fan. Clearly, I'm doing a show where I'm talking about Predator. It doesn't really do it for me that well. I don't really watch it. I didn't go back to it to watch this. For this, I didn't go back and watch it because I don't care. Alien vs. Predator Requiem, Alien vs. Predator 2, AVPR, AVP2 as they call it. We're just going to act like that movie doesn't exist. So Predators came out in 2010, and it was the big return of a Predator movie. We didn't get a regular Predator film, where it was just a Predator film, since the 1990 Predator 2. So we went 20 years without a regular Predator movie. This was produced by Robert Rodriguez, a director I'm a very big fan of. He's a great producer. He's great with music, screenwriter, everything. He's a very talented man. Did From Dusk Till Dawn, Spy Kids, Sin City. He didn't direct it, but he did produce it. The director is a director who you've never heard of, and you're going to be very amazed at his name, which is a real name. You can look it up. His name is Nimrod Antal. I swear to you, that is his name, Nimrod Antal. It's spelled exactly as you expect it to be. It's not like he is foreign, I believe, so I'm sure that's like Jake over there, wherever he's from. I don't know. But that movie, Predators, in 2010, went back to form of the first Predator movie. Instead of taking place in a futuristic Los Angeles that doesn't make sense in a gang war, it takes place in a forest again, in a jungle. But this time it's a jungle on an alien planet where the Predators they start capturing groups of humans from around the globe that are all dangerous, that are all killers in some way, shape, or form. And they bring them to a home world where they hunt them on their own grounds. This film stars Adrian Brody, Topher Grace, Walton Goggins, who is a great actor, who was in Django Unchained. He was on Justified. He was the villain in the newest Tomb Raider. He's a great actor, Walton Goggins. They also had Danny Trejo in a small role because it was produced by Robert Rodriguez, who is a big friend of Danny Trejo and did the Machete films as well. It has Mahershala Ali, Academy Award-winning actor for Moonlight, who's going to be in season 3 of True Detective. He was in it. Alice Braga, who has a show on USA where she's like, it's like Scarface, but with a woman. That's all I know about the show. I see advertisements for it when I'm watching Monday Night Raw sometimes. And Lawrence Fishburne in a great role as like somebody he's not part of this hunting party. He's been there for 10 seasons. We don't know the exact time span of a hunting season. It might be a few days, it might be a few months, it might be years. We don't know. But he's been there for a very long period of time, where at the point he's kind of gone crazy almost. This film, in my opinion, is the second best Predator film that we have gotten. Predators is a great movie. Nothing that Brian says in the comments has any bearing on what I'm saying, because Brian, your talk about Predators doesn't mean anything. Predators is a great film. It has good acting. It has a very good storyline. The only complaint that some people have is it's a little too much like the first Predator film, but that is what I like so much about it. It also has the big thing, if you've seen the advertisements for the new Predator movie, is there's a new, scarier Predator, and that's like the big thing to pull you in. They did that in Predators. In Predators, it's supposed to be that they're getting hunted by 3 Predators that are a stronger faction than the normal Predator that we've seen, to the point that they have a classic Predator prisoner in their camp. And you get to actually see a really cool Predator-on-Predator fight. And that is awesome. And the Predator fights are great. And the deaths are awesome. And the kills are great. And you see there's some good jokes. Some tasteless jokes that are funny, but they're good. There's some good jokes, but it's mixed in with a serious tone and some good, I wouldn't say scares, because I don't really find anything about the Predator films that scary, unsettling in parts, but not really scary. The ideas of what happening, if you were to like, oh, imagine if I was in this scenario, is very frightening. But they're not scary films, I wouldn't say. They are action horror, but I wouldn't say that they're scary films. Somebody was talking about the new Predator film, so it's a perfect time in the comments. Join in on the comments. Let's talk. Let's have conversations, guys. Please feel free. Like, share this video. Share with your friends, your loved ones, your sister that you don't talk to anymore because she lives far away. She's in Europe. Call her. Be like, hey, watch this show. It's really good. Like, share, like the Strong Island Facebook page. I do agree. See, Predators is underrated. AJ, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I apologize, AJ. But AJ, Predators underrated. Great pace, lots of fun. I completely agree. It's not too long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It stays at a nice pace throughout the whole movie, picks up as it's going, and it's very rewatchable. The things about the Predator movies that I really like is I find most of them are very rewatchable, that you're willing to watch it over and over again. So we'll bring us to the new Predator film, The Predator, directed by Shane Black, written by Shane Black and Fred Dekker. A lot of the crew, people behind it, behind the scenes of this film, worked on the first Predator. Shane Black was in the first Predator. Shane Black was an uncredited writer on the first Predator. This film is supposed to take it more back to the original, but connecting 1 and 2 in a new setting, set in a modern day America. Now, a lot of the reviews for the new Predator are saying it's terrible. It's one of the worst films of the year. It's a slap in the face of the franchise. And while they're not wrong, I did have a lot of fun with this movie. There was a lot of this movie that I found really funny and entertaining. Not because it was a good movie, but because it was fun. It's a very fun movie. I had a lot of fun watching it. There was a lot of jokes, whether or not they were intended to be. I was laughing at them for the right reasons. I find them very funny. One of the jokes that I made earlier, where somebody says about the Predator, you know Whoopi Goldberg? It's an alien Whoopi Goldberg. That's something I've been saying my entire life. And when they said that in the film, I haven't laughed that hard in like 5 years. So for that alone, I enjoyed the movie for that one joke. Granted, you might not like that joke. I found it hilarious. Am I saying that The Predator is a good movie? No. It's a bad movie that I very much enjoyed watching and would watch again and possibly another time after that. The main character is pretty bland and terrible. Olivia Munn tries, but she feels like she's in a different film. She plays a scientist that's supposed to be studying the Predator. She feels like she's in a completely different film for the rest of the cast. The people in the bus that you see in the trailer, the loonies, it's supposed to be a group of they're military personnel who all, for some reason, are medically considered crazy. And they're going to the loony bin, so they call them the loony bin. They're the best part of the movie. One of the parts of what I liked about this movie is that it felt like a bad 80s action horror film. It felt like they were trying to go as close back to the roots of the first Predator film as they could by making these crazy characters that you haven't seen since the first one. These characters were a little more interesting than the characters in Predators, but the movie itself and the story is so bad that it doesn't matter if these characters are any good. Some people like Sterling K. Brown in this film. He's the actor from This Is Us. He plays the Najatka's father, Killmonger's father in Black Panther. He is a good actor. He knows what movie he's in. He's really cheesing it up, making it really cheesy, crazy. I didn't like him in the movie at all, and some people really like him. Some people think he's the best part of the movie. I don't like him at all. What I like about the movie is the classic Predator that is in the film for the first half, the deaths and kills, the action I enjoyed. There is some parts where it gets overly CGI'd. The Predator dogs were not needed whatsoever. And that's another thing. Part of the marketing for this film was the Predator dogs and the Super Predator. Both of which they had in Predators, and they're acting like they just created this. It didn't exist. They're different models, they're different styles, they're done differently, but they've done them before. So there's really nothing new to this film. There's elements of ideas that they try to make a reason of why they take human heads as trophies and rip out your spine, is they take human DNA to try to that's part of what they do. They take DNA of the creatures that they kill in order to enhance themselves, to make them stronger. Which isn't a bad idea. It's not... I agree, AJ. The visual effects were TV level. Netflix shows look visually better. I do agree with that. It was an $88 million budgeted film, and it didn't feel it at all. There were parts of it that I did like with the effects, but there was very little... It kind of opens very abruptly. It kind of feels like Star Wars when it opens, which kind of threw me off. if you didn't know a lot about the Predator films and you were to start watching this and the way it starts, you'd be like, wait, what am I watching? What is this? What's going on? Boyd Holbrook, who plays the lead in The Predator, I'm talking about, for anyone who just started watching, I'm talking about The Predator, the new Shane Black film which came out this week, which I saw. Boyd Holbrook plays the lead. He's supposed to be the military gruff guy that you always get in these films, minus Danny Glover. Who I love Danny Glover, but I don't know what he was doing. Predator 2 is a weird movie. It's like they took a script for a murder mystery film and they just went, we could put a Predator in that. Yeah, let's put a Predator in that. That seems like a good idea. Oh, The Grinch Stole Christmas? Let's throw a Predator in that. What else you got? Oh, Driving Miss Daisy? Driving Miss Predator? That's what Predator 2 feels like to me. But any hooser. The Predator, Boyd Holbrook, he's supposed to be the big rough and tough character. Those who don't know Boyd Holbrook, he is the lead in, I believe, just season 1. He might be in season 2 of Narcos, but he was the lead in Narcos. He plays one of the villains in Logan. He's the villain with the glasses and the robot hand, whose name no one remembers, so if I said his name, you wouldn't remember. But he's got the robot hand. You know, the guy who fights Logan, he's got the robot hand? That guy. So he's the lead. Originally, which I haven't seen reviewers or a lot of people talk about this. Maybe I'm the only one who remembers when they originally cast this role. The original casting for this role was Benicio del Toro. Now, if you were to watch this film now, the Predator movie that's in theaters right now, and were to imagine it with Benicio del Toro, you would not be able to comprehend how he would have done this movie. So the movie has to have changed so much, and that's a big thing. A big talk about this movie is a lot of it was studio interference, a lot of reshoots. The entire second half of the film was entirely reshot. You can really tell in the editing. The editing is very choppy in a lot of spots. The film will start to pull you in with some interesting stuff, and then something ridiculous will happen, and you'll just start laughing at how ridiculous it is. But it doesn't undertake how entertaining it is. I found it super entertaining. A film can be entertaining, and you can really enjoy it without it being a good movie. I find The Room very entertaining. It's a terrible movie, but it's really fun to watch. There's a lot of movies. Batman and Robin. A lot of people love watching Batman and Robin. Nobody actually likes Batman and Robin. You just love watching it because it's fun, you know? Cool party! Stuff like that. Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the lead is so bland in this movie. You don't believe him. He's supposed to be this amazing special forces sniper, has 36 confirmed kills, Medal of Valor, all this. You don't believe any of it. And in this kind of movie, you need to believe in the lead. You have to believe in your main character. You have to go, yeah, I could see this guy fighting an alien assassin from another world. No, you can't. The film starts where it's supposed to be he's with a group in Mexico fighting drug cartels and the Predator shows up and he's the only one who survives. So going into the movie, I'm like, oh, cool, you're going to see him go toe-to-toe with the Predator and survive. Writing the film, it would make sense. Have the main character fight the Predator and somehow be able to survive so the audience would be attached to him and be like, okay, I've seen this guy do cool things. I know what he's capable of. I want to see him do more throughout the movie. You get that in a lot of films. My perfect example of this is the first Blade movie. You see Blade lay out a whole nightclub of vampires in the opening film, in the opening scene of the first film. So no matter what throughout any of the other films, you know what Blade's capable of. You know that's Blade. Blade's gonna kill some people. He's gonna slice you up, he's gonna dice you, and he's gonna look cool while he does it. Because that's Blade. In this movie, the Predator's gauntlet falls off, it slides onto his arm, and he hits it, and a blade shoots out and it hurts the Predator, and that's how he's able to escape. I'll wait. Do you find that interesting? No, I didn't think you did. It sounds terrible, right? Because it is. The Predator is not a good movie. It's a bad movie. Did I enjoy watching it? Immensely. Would I recommend it? Kind of, but I would recommend it with the caveat of if you want to watch a big budget movie that kind of sucks, but it's kind of great in how much it sucks, go for it. I would say it's better than Predator 2. I would say it's better than the AVP films, the Alien vs. Predator movies. It's not better than Predators. It is not better than the first Predator. I would give it a 5 out of 10 purely for how much I enjoyed it. If I were to grade it like super critically on like a movie scale, like a Roger Ebert, like going in there, it'd probably be like a 2 or a 3. But I really enjoyed it for the stupidness of it. There's some other things that happen in the movie. I'm going to spend like 5 minutes. I'll talk a little bit of spoilers. 5 minutes of spoilers. So, Boyd Holbrook has a son played by Jacob Tremblay. Jacob Tremblay is Academy Award nominated child actor. Very good child actor. Very, very good. He was in Room. I believe he was in that film Wonder with Owen Wilson and Julia Roberts that came out. I never saw that film. I've heard amazing things about it. I haven't seen it. He plays Boyd Holbrook's son, who is on the autism spectrum. Somehow, they relate in the film that autism is almost like a superpower and that it's the next step in the evolutionary chain. This gives this child the ability to read predator language and be able to use their technology because he's autistic. This is what the movie is saying. I'm just saying what the movie is saying. It takes place during Halloween. Shane Black is a filmmaker who has a lot of humor in his films, so people go, oh, the film's too comedic, has a lot of humor. That makes sense for a Shane Black film. Shane Black did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys. He wrote all the Lethal Weapon movies. So that makes sense. His films almost always take place on a holiday. Christmas, usually, this one takes place on Halloween. The child decides to wear the Predator helmet out on Halloween. Someone throws a rock at the kid's helmet, and the Predator helmet is an alien helmet. If something hits it, it responds. So this guy's in a house, and he throws a rock at the helmet. The helmet shoots off a rocket and blows up the guy in the house. It was a 7-year-old kid wearing this helmet. He killed the guy. That's not even the crazy part I'm talking about. I just wanted to let you know how weird that is. And I was cracking up for how ridiculous that is. And that's something that you'd only see in like an 80s film or a 90s movie. It felt like a Goosebumps movie, but it was rated R. It's very weird. That's like something you see in like a Small Soldiers or Puppet Master. Not a Predator movie. It was weird. But the really strange part is, at the end of the film, the super predator that you see in the trailer decides the humans are fighting each other. He just decides, oh, I like seeing you guys fight each other, but I'm going to kill you all. And I've decided that one of you is the leader. He's the only one that is strong enough to face me, and I'm going to take him to my planet, and I'm going to rip out his spine. I'm going to use his DNA to make myself better. I slightly paraphrased, but not that much. So all the humans decide to band together to fight the Predator in the end of the movie, and it's very weird. Apparently it was all a reshoot. The whole last act, it was all completely reshot. There's actually a really easy way to tell this. Sterling K. Brown's character, it's night outside of the ship, and before he goes into the ship, he's not wearing sunglasses, and after he gets out of the ship, he's not wearing sunglasses. But when they get into the ship, he's wearing sunglasses, and then he takes them off. So very clearly, the film was shot, the exterior scenes were shot in the daytime, and they were daytime scenes, and then they reshot the whole movie where all the stuff outside the ship took place at night, but they never reshot inside the ship. So what you're seeing inside the ship was before the reshoots, which is why he's wearing sunglasses. That's not something you quickly pick up, but that was something right away. I'm like, why is he wearing sunglasses only indoors? And it's nighttime. Why does he even have sunglasses? So I picked that up, and that's how I was able to figure out about this really weird editing choices. So the Predator kills everybody. Spoiler, people die in a Predator movie. Predator kills everyone. And after the Predator kills everyone, you think he's going to go after the main guy, Boyd Holbrook. No, he was talking about the kid the whole time because he wants to take the kid to his homeworld so he can rip out this like 7-8-year-old child's spine to take his autism and inject it into himself in order to become a better predator. And they literally say it's the next evolutionary step is autism, and that's why he's trying to do it. If that makes sense to you, please tell me, because I'm still confused by it, because that doesn't make a lick of sense, and we're talking about it doesn't make sense in a film with aliens. It's a movie with aliens, and that makes no sense. The predator kidnaps a child in order to steal the autism from him in order to become a more powerful predator. I guess it was trying to be empowering, but it just comes off really strange and borderline offensive. I wouldn't say it's offensive, but borderline. It's on that border. You could see somebody talking about it in like a news thing. This isn't a news thing. This is me with a coffee. But yeah, so overall, I love the Predator movies. Just watch the first one in Predators and this one if you want to laugh. Not a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's not good. So the next thing I want to talk about tonight is something I'm a really big fan of, which is season 2 of American Vandal came out this week. For those of you who don't know what American Vandal is, it's a Netflix show. It is a mockumentary show that it lampoons true crime shows like Making a Murderer. In the first 24, and there's 50,000 true crime documentary shows. Ugh, excuse me, sorry. I got a parasite. But they have like 50, 70, 300,000 of these true crime shows. American Vandal is a parody of them where it's a true crime show done in a school, in a high school. And it's about some sort of vandalism, some sort of crime. In the first season, Jimmy Tatro from YouTube and other movies plays a character who is expelled from supposedly spray painting the 27 or 37 dicks on the teachers' cars in the teacher parking lot during a teacher assembly day. It's in the it's hashtag who drew the dicks, okay? It's for the show. That's literally that's part of the show is hashtag who drew the dicks. But yes, penises. It's very funny the way that they really go into it and they treat it like a true crime, like a murder or something like that, and they really make fun of how those shows operate and really go in, and it's hilarious. And not just hilarious, it also has heart, it has meaning, it has really good characters, good character development throughout the show. You learn something about each character. The show actually has a message that it's trying to tell about my generation. It's slightly younger because I'm not in high school, obviously I'm out of college. But this generation, how we are with social media, they use social media and Snapchat as framing devices. It's very interesting. I highly recommend the first season. Season 2 just came out, and this season is about, and this is the name on the show, is about the turd burglar. This person, it's supposed to be the two students on the show, the characters, is Peter Maldonado and Sam Eklund. They shot the first season of American Vandal to get this student exonerated for his crimes. And it became so popular that Netflix picked it up, and what we saw was Netflix picking up the show. And I think that's hilarious and extremely ingenious that they did that. And they decide that they have a big budget now, and they're going to go find a different crime at a different school, and they're going to go solve it. And they go to what's called the brownout, which is someone at a school in Washington put laxatives in the school lemonade, causing everyone to do exactly what you think. You can look up the season 2 trailer. I did speak about it, I think, in my last takeover. The trailer just came out, so I spoke about it. And I wasn't completely sold on it because I was like, I don't know if you're going to be able to go from penis humor to poop humor, and that might be a downgrade. Poop humor can be funny, but it's not always funny. I would say, in all honesty, I was wrong. I think that they did a very good job of being able to sustain poop jokes for an entire season. It's only 8 episodes, 30 minutes long, so it's not an overly long show. Both seasons are only 8 episodes long. But they were able to take a joke that I was like, that's going to get really old really quick, and was able to actually not just, and they do it in the first season too, it's not just, oh, it's just this one joke and they're going to beat it into the ground till you don't care. They do the joke in a way, in the way they write it, where you're actually invested in not just the joke itself, but the actual crime, and you want to know who did it. You want to know the culprit. You want to know if the person that's being convicted of this is actually the person, and it's very fascinating. And this season, they cover some really great stuff. They cover being coerced into a confession, giving false confessions. They talk about this person was, the person who was convicted was coerced and forced into a confession of something they didn't actually commit, which is something that does happen in real life with very serious crimes. So they do it with a not so serious but serious crime, and it works very well, and it's very funny. They also go into having a black student from a more underprivileged area go to school in a more affluent area due to athletics. It's very similar to, in real life, to LeBron James going from where he lived in real life to where his school was for St. Vincent St. Mary's. It's very similar to that, where they have a character who is going to be the next LeBron James who goes to this school, and they think he might be the culprit, but they're not sure. But he brings all the money into the school, and so does the coach. So they kind of are allowed to do whatever they want. So it's very interesting. They go into like corruption, and they talk about social media and how everyone kind of lives through a facade of their social media. And they talk about catfishing, and there's all sorts of things that they talk about in a comedic way that also still puts out the message that they want to put out and puts it into the public consciousness. And it's very good. It's very well written. It's very funny. It's very interesting. You actually want to know what happens to the characters. I can't recommend American Vandal enough. It's one of the best new shows on television, in my opinion. Going into its second season, it's just as strong as the first season. I would say it might even be better. I'd have to rewatch both seasons in order to say. There's also parts of it in both seasons. I would say in both seasons, there are characters that, and I know this isn't just me because I've talked to other people and have had this conversation about it. There are characters that feel very much like people I went to school with, that I went to high school with, and I could see, oh, so this is if this happened to this person or this happened to that person. The character that's blamed in this season reminds me very much of someone I graduated high school with, who I am friends with, and he's a good person. And I'm not going to say his name because he's a very good kid, and I like him. But it reminds me of what would have happened if this person, and if you went to high school with me and you watched the show, you'll probably know who I'm talking about. Is what would happen if this specific person that I knew were to be convicted of this sort of crime. And that's very interesting because they make the characters seem real, like people you may know that are outcasts, or maybe they're the class clown, or maybe they do certain things. There's parts of stuff I do that I find in these characters, especially in the first season, because I was kind of stupid in school. Not so much in college. If you knew me in college, I was a great person. I was the mayor. But in high school, I was a jackass, for lack of a better word. So I kind of related to the first season with the character, and I related in parts with this season because I was accused of crimes in school that I didn't commit, where they tried to pin it on me, and I had to prove myself out of it because the school will try to not have your parent come down or not tell them until they get what they want out of you. That's stuff that does happen in school. So I find it really interesting that they're able to talk about this sort of stuff in this format. It's very fascinating to me that in this comedy mockumentary format, they're able to talk about real situations. And it's fascinating to me, and it's something that I think more people should watch. I don't think enough people watch American Vandal. There are people that talk about it. I think more people should be watching American Vandal. if you're at home and you don't have anything to watch, I would say watch American Vandal. Watch at least 2 episodes, take up an hour. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue watching it. But I think there's a really good chance that you will really enjoy it. I would say give it 2 episodes. I think there's going to be a lot of things that will surprise you of how much you enjoy it. It's not for everybody. Some people don't like crude humor in any way, shape, or form. Humor is extremely subjective. What I find funny, you might not. I almost knocked over that coffee. What I find funny, you might not find funny. But you might also find it funny. And there are times where you will laugh at something that you didn't think that you would laugh at. I think this show does that in spades, and it's very good. It's one of the best shows on Netflix, in my opinion. So I would highly recommend American Vandal. I would also recommend, speaking of Netflix, Bert Kreischer, the stand-up comedian. He has a new Netflix special called Secret Time. It's 57 minutes long. It's one of the funniest Netflix comedy specials that I've seen in recent memory. Right up there with like the Dave Chappelle one. The Dave Chappelle, how many did he like 47 ones last year? Those are great. I think Bert Kreischer's special is completely hilarious. If you've seen any of Bert Kreischer's stand-up, his most popular is his bit where he talks about how he joined the Russian mafia and he was the machine, and in real life, when he went to college, he got a minor in Russian without ever actually learning a word of the language. But then he had to go to Russia for a field trip in order to get the minor, and the only thing he could say in Russian was, "I am the machine." And he would drink with the Russians shot for shot all night and became friends with these Russian gangsters. It became almost a myth. So I'd highly recommend going YouTube, type in Bert Kreischer, The Machine, if you haven't seen it. And if you find that sort of humor and the way he tells the story very funny, highly recommend his new special, Secret Time. I would say it's almost funnier than The Machine, which also is its own special on Showtime. I would very much like seeing Bert Kreischer do stand-up. I haven't seen him live. I would very much like seeing him live. Maybe me and my dad one day will talk about comedians we've seen live. He's definitely seen 1,000 more than I have. But that could be a really interesting show. So I think we're going to wrap up very soon. I'd like to thank everybody for watching tonight. Like I said, like, share. That was me. Like, share. Like the Strong Island Facebook page. Tell your loved ones. Call your ex-girlfriend that you haven't spoken to in 3 years who's married and has a kid. Call her, say, "Hey, you might like Benny TV. It's a good show. You should watch it. I'm going to send you the link." And she goes, "Hey, we're not Facebook friends. Leave me alone." And then she calls the cops on you. I'm not liable for that, but you should tell her anyway about Benny TV, because it's a great, great show. And you enjoyed it, because all I did was sit here and rant about The Predator for like 45 minutes. And then I told you to watch American Vandal, and you're going to watch American Vandal. Don't watch The Predator. Watch American Vandal. Watch The Predator if you want to laugh. It's very funny. There's even weirder stuff than the stuff that I told you about in that movie. There's some strange things in that movie. But I would say watch it, maybe on DVD. Well, not DVD. Who is a DVD? Yeah, watch it on VHS. You should watch The Predator on VHS. It's a perfect VHS movie. So in conclusion, watch Predator on VHS, watch American Vandal, watch Bert Kreischer's Secret Time. I've been Ryan Rizzuti. This has been the Ryan Rizzuti Takeover of Benny TV. Next week, it's going to be a very special show. It's the main man himself, Benny Rizzuti's birthday next week. He's going to have a very special show. I'm not going to be on it. I will be on it in 2 weeks' time. We're going to have some special announcements then. Please watch. Please watch next week. I'm going to be sure to share it. But I shouldn't have to share it for you to watch it. You should already be liking the Strong Island Facebook page. Have a great night, guys. Godspeed, Spider-Man.